So, Manchester City ended Real's title defence in the Champions League. The quest for the Holy Grail has ended in disappointment again and again. But now, City find themselves in the summit clash for the second time in 3 seasons. 2 big points to discuss. Are City now officially the best team in the world? And are they the best club football team of all time? To answer those questions, I am joined from Oxford by football coach and analyst Matt Holland, a regular here on WION. Matt, I'm going to throw this straight away. I'm going to throw you straight away into the deep end. Are City now the best team in world football?
Who would argue? I think after the performance last night, the level that they played at, the way they dismantled, obviously, Arsenal in this end of the championship race also, I think nobody can argue at this moment in time.
You know, Matt, we expected it to be a close game with Real having that European pedigree. So how surprised were you with the way the holders were sort of dismantled by City?
Of course, it's a semi-final, so you don't expect it to be such a high-scoring game. But honestly, this is not the first time that we've seen Man City destroy a big opponent in multiple competitions in the last years under Guardiola. So on one hand, it is a huge surprise because you expect Real to come and do what they do in these moments like they did a couple of seasons ago. But obviously, when you see the result and you think, well, it's Man City, it's Guardiola, they're in good form, it's also not so surprising when you maybe dig into the detail a little bit of this Madrid squad.
Now, just talking about Real Madrid, they've won 5 Champions League titles in the last 9 years. Do you think this is the end of that golden generation of Toni Kroos, Karim Benzema and Luka Modric? And is it time now for new blood to take over at the Bernabeu?
You know, these players, they're obviously renewing contracts now. You know, they're still top level. They can still perform because they're in that environment. You know, if you put some of those players in a lesser team, a lesser club, you probably won't see the same impact. So these top players, they can continue to have this evergreen approach, if you like, to their career. But the players that you mentioned was funny. I was at the Man City Real Madrid game at the same stadium in 2012 Champions League qualifier. Madrid played that game. Specifically, Benzema played that game. So, you know, that's 11 years ago. So I think that, you know, there's going to have to, if they don't replenish now, they're certainly going to have to do something in the January window, but most definitely next summer, Madrid are going to have to go through, for me, a big overhaul.
Do City now start favourites, Matt, against Inter Milan in the final? And what do you think Guardiola will do to ensure no repeat of that 2021 final loss to Chelsea?
I think not too much will change. Look, is he going to completely change what he does on a week-to-week basis? No, they're already in good momentum. Guardiola, and specifically me from a coaching background, you know that you don't really venture too far away from your beliefs, the principles that you play to. So they will prepare to a maximum level. They will understand and respect in that to maximum level. But I think that they'll be looking at all these last few games of the season in multiple competitions, thinking they have a massive chance here to take home not one but multiple pieces of silverware.
Okay, on to that big question then. Are City the greatest football team of all time, Matt? Or do you think there is still a huge column that needs to be ticked before we can ask that question?
I think if they win the Champions League, people will put them on that pedestal. I still think people will complain because of the money that they've spent. I still think that even if they were to go and win multiple trophies in one season, a match a treble, for example, I still think that people will say, well, they've not bettered Manchester United because they've already done it. So I think you're going to have that. But if you look at the overall package in terms of depth of the squad, quality of the players, quality of the style of play, the way that they just smack teams off the park at times, and we're not talking about teams at the bottom of the league or third round of cups. We're talking about, you know, serial killers in terms of Champions League winners. So I think arguably people would have to take their hat off and say that, yeah, this squad, this current group now could be the greatest of all time, yeah.
Okay, when we debate the greatest team of all time, how important are Champions League wins there? Because domestically, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, they've won more titles than City. Even Juventus won 9 in a row over in the Serie A. Real Madrid have 5 Champions League wins. The great AC Milan team, had 3 Champions League wins over a 10-year run in the late 80s and mid-90s. So how do you sort of then pick who's the best?
They right up there. There's no doubt they are. And as to repeat what I said in the previous question, if you win the Champions League, you have to be considered. It'll only be their first title. But look, the margins now, and we've spoke about this about individual players in past shows, the margins now between the top teams are very, very little. The way they train, the technology they have available to them, the environment, such as the training ground, the number of staff, etc. There's so much that all these clubs have now. Those margins are so small. They are minute. So when you have a team that can come and dominate, again, you have to put your hands together because it's not easy. I think in the past, yes, teams were close around each other in terms of top teams, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But I think the gulf was different. Like if you look at Manchester United, an amazing club, a massive club, and top players, but the difference between them and the other teams in 2 decades ago, I think was quite vast. I think now people would say Man City are a really good team and they're way ahead of everybody, but the difference is not that far away. The other teams are still top level. So that's why I think you have to look at them fairly and judge them in comparison to top teams of the past.
Okay, we'll judge them fairly, but Pep Guardiola has always said that he will be judged on the basis of his Champions League haul when he leaves City. How important is this title now, Matt, for his legacy? That's what he's been speaking about this week.
Yeah, he has to win it. They have, and of course it's easy for me to say it. I'm nobody to judge Pep Guardiola, but listen, he has to win it now. In yesteryears, they fell short in different levels of the competition. The fact that they now win the final again, they have to. There's no question about this. They have to win this tournament for himself and for the club. So, greatest manager of the 21st century, you can't argue with his trophy haul. You can't argue that he's dominated everywhere that he's been. Yes, people have the odd game. They have the odd season where it's not so good, but he's consistently bringing progressions to the environments that he works in. And I think he deserves a great amount of credit for that. It doesn't matter where he's from. His nationality is not a reference to that. It's about him as a person. And I think that's what people have to respect.
I love that line, the greatest manager of this century. On that note, Matt, thank you for your time. We will stay in touch as always, and there are some storylines we have to discuss with you as the football season winds up. Enjoy your travels.
Thank you, guys. Much appreciated.